Hello friends, and hello enemies. As promised, I am back with part 2 of our Revoltech Yamaguchi Zoids review. Last time we looked at the Blade Liger, this time we were looking at the Geno Breaker. So just like with the Blade Liger, the packaging for the Geno Breaker is way too big. It doesn't need to be this big, and even with the size, it doesn't do a great job of showing off the item inside. I just don't think there was any reason this needed to be so, large. But you get the same kind of packaging. The Blade Liger had been opened before. It was pre-owned. I think this was pre-owned too, but I don't think it's ever been opened before. I guess we'll find out. It's still got this sale banner on it advertising some other Revoltech stuff. You slide that down, you can see the nice holographic text, just like with the Blade Liger packaging. Usually I like to keep stuff like this, these banners. But yeah, it's advertising a whole bunch of different stuff. If I recall correctly, these are kind of old figures, so who knows if this stuff is even available anymore. On the back, just like with the Blade Liger, you've got some examples of different things that the Geno Breaker can do. And of course, a big selling point is that the two can fight if you have both of them, because they are rival Zoids in the series. The Geno Breaker has a lot more going on than the Blade Liger. It's also got the disadvantage of being bipedal, so I think it's going to be a little bit more frustrating. It might be easily knocked over. I don't know, its feet look pretty big. That's another thing about these, is that they're kind of off model from what I'm used to, which is the anime. So I'm not really sure I will like it until I get it out and look at it. Unfortunately, also like the Blade Liger, I see that some parts aren't attached yet. It's got the arm and leg on this side, but its other arm and leg are in the packaging. So I'm anticipating that they have inserted extra joints on the other side, and that I'm going to have to take those out to put these limbs in, which was very annoying with the Blade Liger. Hopefully it's not as annoying with the Geno Breaker, but I think it probably will be. I am sorry for the very close-up setup. This box is just so big, there's no way to get it all in camera. So it makes for not very satisfying unboxing moments. Just a quick note, once again, it will come with these coins. The Blade Liger came with a lot of them. The Geno Breaker only gets 2, and they're orange instead of gray. Like I said last time, I don't think they're in circulation anymore. You can't really do anything with these little tokens. So let me get this out and we will take a look. So not only are the other limbs not connected, but the foot is not connected either. And I think this must have been opened before, because it is dusty inside here. It's very dusty. This thing has been on display, unless dust got into the packaging somehow. But I was sure when I bought this it was marked as unused. So someone lied, I believe. Yeah, because this crab claw is probably supposed to have the blade splayed open, and that's why there's this divot here in the packaging. Hopefully the parts are all still there. I wasn't really worried about this one missing things, just because it was branded as unopened and new. I mean, I got it used, but it was marked as unopened. But yeah, it is dusty. It's dusty already. I don't have room to talk because my stuff is pretty dusty too, but usually when I'm trying to sell something, I'll clean it off as much as I can. But I'm going to have to attach the parts like I did with the Blade Liger. I will say a good thing about this being pre-owned is that the hard work is already done for me of taking out the extra joints. If that was how it was set up. The Blade Liger was set up that way, and it was kind of stupid. So if you guys have never seen a Geno Breaker before, you are in for a treat, because it is a strange looking beast. And so I will put it together and we will take a look at it. Okay, first impressions. I don't like it nearly as much as the Blade Liger, and that is for 2 reasons. One, it is wildly off model. The core components that make a Geno Breaker are there. The crab claws, the thrusters in the back, it's a big red T-Rex, but this thing is positively wimpy as opposed to how the Geno Breaker is supposed to appear. It's very, very scrawny, except for the legs, which are enormous. Just these feet and these legs, they're just so big compared to the rest of the body. The Geno Breaker is supposed to be a big boy, like a giant, terrifying beast. And this just looks so scrawny, except for there's like elephant feet. At some point in the anime, they even make a point about how the Geno Breaker is too large to perform quick maneuvers. They find out that's not true.
Wait for us! In terms of sheer power, I'm no match for that monster. But this command wolf is the fastest thing on the ground. I'll run circles around him. He's got no speed. He's too big. I'm just too fast for him, the big clumsy.
But anyway, the point is that it is a big guy. This is just like such a scrawny little thing. If you took away these feet and the crab claws, it would just be like a little worm. And the crab claws, that's another thing. They're so small. They're supposed to be massive. They're supposed to be about maybe this much bigger against the Geno Breaker itself. Big, imposing claws, and they're so tiny. Like, actually hilariously tiny. But aside from it being pretty crazily off model, the Blade Liger had a beautiful, like, candy shell blue for its armor. The armor on this is just plastic. I mean, I think there's some die-cast pieces in here because it is pretty heavy, but it is nowhere near as shiny as the Blade Liger, and I was expecting it to be. I was hoping it would be. I don't know why it's not. It's just like a regular red plastic. So of course when you pit the two of them against each other, one is going to be cooler than the other because it's a shiny plastic. And this one's just like dull. I don't know. I think once I get them together, that's going to annoy me that one is really shiny and beautiful and the other one's just like, oh man, it's so scrawny. Like these arms are so scrawny. The Blade Liger was off model too, but not in a way that I thought was terrible. It still looked like a good figure. This doesn't. I feel like I'm being so hard on it. I don't mean to be. I don't like being hard on figures, but yeah, so far I'm not thrilled with this. The Geno Breaker is one of my favorite Zoids. It's in my top 3. So it takes a lot for me to not like a Geno Breaker, but yeah, this one has definitely been through the ringer a little bit. Like it's loose in some places, like these claws here. The joints are a little, they're not as tight as they would be on a new figure. Someone has sure put this through the ringer and then just set it aside to collect dust and then sold it eventually to me. So let's take a closer look. I'm going to try and do this gently because there's a lot of stuff on here that's kind of wanting to fall out of place. When you wiggle it, it feels jiggly like Jello, which is not something you want to feel when you pick up an action figure. So of course it's got several points of articulation, which, as I touched upon in the last review, isn't necessarily a good thing. This piece right here extends the neck, but it looks so goofy. It's just like a floating head. There's nothing really connecting it besides this tiny joint, so it looks very strange. I just am not a fan of that. And the only reason they want to do this head extension is because that's how it fires its charged particle beam. So it has to stretch out its entire body. These fins open up for heat dispersal, I believe. There should be ones on the bottom that open too. Yeah, there we go. These foot clamps lock down, takes in energy through this port right here, and then blasts it toward a target. So it's really cool in the anime when it does this. It's just like a big, you know, oh shit moment. So yeah, I get why they wanted the neck extension, but I think there would be a better way to do it than this tiny little joint. When you have it all displayed like this, it doesn't look that bad, but I can't get over how scrawny it is. In a while, I will bring my Tomy model so you guys can see how thick a boy he's supposed to be. Please keep in mind that my Tomy model is very old and also even dustier than this. Get some good head tilt, of course. Why not? Because it's only on a single joint. The mouth opens. For some reason, the lower jaw is on a hinge as well, but why? Why, I wonder. That's just like, stuff like that's not necessary. This piece should be able to go forward. Are you kidding me? So this crest right here is actually a weapon that is supposed to swing forward and it can stab other Zoids, but it is not moving. It looks like it should. Oh, he's a little bottom heavy. It looks like it should move, and it's not. Okay, I've looked at all the promo pictures and I've tried further to get it to move, but it doesn't. So Revoltech, out of all the pointless articulation you give these things, in the one place where it's warranted, you don't have articulation? And maybe I'm just wrong and it is supposed to swing forward, but I haven't seen any evidence of that and I can't get it to go forward, so maybe it's stuck, but I think it's actually just not movable, which is crazy because that is a distinctive feature of this Zoid. And I know I sound like a total nerd saying that, but it's just like blowing my mind how they'll put all this other pointless articulation in here and not in the one place where it's supposed to be. I feel like I'm going crazy. Oh man, that was actually a part of this I was really looking forward to, because there is something immensely satisfying about this little blade just going shing, going forward and stabbing something. But we can't have that here. Let's see, there is a cannon in the mouth. So you can drop that down for when you want to do the particle beam attack, and then it goes back up. That is cool. That's cool. You know what would be cooler is if this this knife thing came down. So you've got swivel on the neck. Not any up and down for that I can tell. I think the up and down is reserved for the head. Yeah, it seems pretty stuck there. Twist at the waist and at the base of the tail. Unlike the blade liger, I don't think there's any real articulation at the middle. I think a lot of the movement is going to come from how you position the body within the two legs. Like, I think the leg action is necessary for posing this thing. Lots of movement on the arms, kind of like with the blade liger. We get a lot of splay. Man, these arms are so wimpy. Just an up and down on the elbow. So the wrists are articulated, and then you also have further articulation in the claws. The legs, since they're going to provide most of our movement capabilities, they should be able to do a lot of stuff. Splay out, splay in. Just when I pick up this thing, it just, like I said, it feels like Jello, which is a strange way to describe it, but it really just feels like so jiggly. Plastic feels soft, but not in the same way as the blade liger. The blade liger's plastic felt soft too, but it also came with the positive of being a beautiful candy shell, like gloss. This is just, like I said, plain plastic, and it's kind of lame. I mean, there's some parts that are kind of shiny, like this plate right here is shiny. The thrusters are a little shiny, so I don't know why the whole thing couldn't be shiny. I don't know. You get a little movement on that leg, but it's just so massive. Some movement on the foot. Most of the movement, I believe, is going to come from the thigh region. Isn't that just always the case? The supplementary claws on the foot can move, but I don't know why that would be. Only this part is supposed to move. These are supposed to just be part of the foot, just extra metal. So I don't know why that is there. The gun mounted on the sides of the legs can move up and down, swivel, whatever. So I feel like I'm just disillusioned by this, and I guess I kind of am, because I love the Geno Breaker, and this is kind of like, I want it to be better. I feel like they did pretty well with the blade liger, but when it came to the Geno Breaker, it was just like they were tired. They spent all their time on the blade liger, and they saw this big T-Rex with crab claws, and they were like, I want to go home to my loving family, so let's get through this as quick as possible. If you don't pose it right, it just wants to fall back. I'm having that trouble right now where I have to find a better sweet spot to get it to stand up. A lot of this is because there's dust on it, but some parts of it are just like kind of ugly. Like just not sculpted nicely, not cast nicely. The blade liger is such a step up from the Geno Breaker. I don't understand how this happened. So a key feature of the Geno Breaker is this pack on the back. It's not only where the particle beam ions are sucked in, but it's got a booster and it's got its iconic crab claws. Also, have you guys noticed more people using the word iconic? Like, I hear people saying it all the time, and so I'm just like, my ears are perked for whenever anyone says iconic, just because I hear it so much in the modern lexicon, I guess. In this case, it is warranted, because these are iconic for the Geno Breaker. But I hear a lot of people using it in ways that aren't appropriate. Think about your words before you say them. That's real rich coming from me, but you know. So these not only serve as shields to protect the body of the Geno Breaker, but they're also offensive weapons as well. The crab claws come out, can pick up and pinch lesser Zoids, breaking them. Very, very cool. I will say when the claws are extended, it adds a little bit of more visual weight to the figure, so it doesn't look quite so scrawny, but they're supposed to be larger. Man, I'm having trouble with this one. It is being very finicky. This is another one or Patrick is not going to be happy. With the Blade Liger, he only took 2 pictures. I think with this one, he will only take 1 picture for the thumbnail. Mark my words. Anyway, a cool thing about these claws is that they are very articulated in the show and in the model kits, and even in the old Tomy kit I have. You can do a lot of things with them. Oh, yeah. These weren't attached when I got it out of the package. They keep wanting to fall out. The crab claws are not supposed to come out of this shield area, so I think that's something that could have had a deeper recess, could have been more securely inserted into its peg hole, because it's supposed to be in there. It's not supposed to come out. I'm going to try and do this without any pieces falling off. But yeah, it's canonically, you can get a lot of movement out of this, and so they've replicated that with their joint system. But it is so finicky. It's just like the body is so slender and svelte that it can't really stand up to the weight and movement of this pack. But yeah, these are supposed to get a lot of different kinds of movement. This can swivel. It's not supposed to. It doesn't in the anime. It's not necessary because you get so much movement out of these claws already. You don't need the whole pack to swivel. In addition, these boosters can move. Like, I think if anything, the pack could only move maybe up and down because, man, it's been a while since I've seen the show, but the Geno Breaker could fly. It didn't have to walk. It could fly using these boosters and like boosters on its feet. It kind of did like a Hulk jump, you know, where it would just launch itself into the air really high and then glide for a little bit and then land and do the same. I'm sure you guys find that fascinating. I also have a little bit of red paint right here on the side, which seems very unusual for Revoltech standards. I'm wondering if that's something the previous owner did, or if it just came like that. I really don't know. It's a little suspicious that it's red though, which is the color of the Zoid and probably more likely to happen in the factory. And these joints are very loose. Very loose. So the Blade Liger came with a flight stand. The Geno Breaker doesn't get anything like that, but it does get this extension. So another thing that this Zoid can do is shoot its claw out to grab an enemy and reel them in, kind of like a big fishing line. And so this is supposed to replicate that, I guess. So I think you should be able to pull off the hand and have it jut out. So you take off the entire forearm, remove this Revoltech joint here, and just plug this into here, and that would give the effect of it jolting forward. I'm not going to do that because I'm already kind of over this figure. But I don't know, man. It just seems like they didn't try hard at all with this. Like, even this rod, like, you can see the sprue marks, and it's kind of janky and stuff. And a lot of this, I have to consider that it might have gotten damaged with the previous owner, but I think it's just like not that great of a figure to begin with. Like some of this gunk on here, I think that's from the previous owner. It's coming off. But I just don't, honestly, I just don't think this is a good figure, and it kind of breaks my heart because I love the Geno Breaker and it deserves so much better. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very complicated figure. Zoids are very complicated. I don't even like drawing them because they're so difficult. I can't even imagine trying to make a 3D moving figure of one. Like, the people who develop these figures and the model kits and stuff, they blow my mind because I can't even wrap my brain around that. But they did so well with the Blade Liger, but they really dropped the ball on this one, and I don't like being so negative about something, but I just have to give my honest opinion. Okay, so here is the old Takara Tomy model kit. This is the old motorized Raven Geno Breaker model kit. It's very old, it's very dusty. I put it together when I was a child, so please be kind. At some point I also decided I wanted to start distressing it, so I distressed this crab claw, and that was about as far as I got before I moved on to a different project because ADHD life. You can see it's supposed to be a thick, just huge, like a bulk of a creature. This is so skinny comparatively. And I understand, like, to make things move a certain way, they can't always be completely accurate to the model. But I think a lot that they did here is unnecessary. They could have kept it more in line with the traditional Geno Breaker, have it be less finicky, give it less articulation. I don't know. Like I always say, I am not a toy engineer. But do you see how much larger this booster pack and these crab claws are? And importantly, shing! Do you see how nice that is? Shing! Isn't that cool? Why? Why not here? You have articulation literally everywhere else. Another thing is, I'm not really docking points for this. The Blade Liger, its cockpit couldn't open either. There's no indication whatsoever on this Zoid that it even has a cockpit. It's supposed to be in the chest, like this one. You can kind of see it. I don't want to open it too far because it falls off, because this is old. But this one doesn't even have, like, a hint of a cockpit. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat this one for me. I have a Geno Breaker Kotobukiya model kit that I haven't built yet because I'm afraid. So it might be nicer and more on model than this old one, but I think this will always be the standard, the old standard. Tomy is making those new smaller kits, but they aren't making a Geno Breaker to start with. That wasn't in the lineup. They are making a Geno Soarer, which is like the precursor to the Geno Breaker, but I don't think they have plans for a Geno Breaker for a while. But yeah, I know this one is old and janky and dusty, and you can see the sprue marks, and it's not great. But I have a lot of fond feelings toward it because I got it when I was a child, and it blew my mind because it was an import, and I don't even know how my mom got it, but I got it for Christmas and I built it that same day. And I was so proud of myself because I could build it even though the instructions were all in Japanese. Never mind that there were pictures. That didn't count. I was just smart, is what I told myself. But yeah, so since it was Raven's Geno Breaker, it also came with a little shadow figure. Ah, so cute. So here are the two Zoids Revoltech figures side by side. I think the size is pretty accurate. I feel like the Geno Breaker is a little bit smaller maybe than it's supposed to be, but I remember these being kinda comparable sizes. The Geno Breaker is a very large Zoid. The Blade Liger is kind of like a medium-sized Zoid. So yeah, I think this could be a little bit bigger. But yeah, I don't know if you can tell through the camera, but to me there just seems to be a difference in quality. A lot of it is the coating on this armor here, but even the blacks seem glossier. The gold paint is shinier compared to the silver paint on the Geno Breaker. It's got a nice like umbra on the cockpit shield, but for the eye of the Geno Breaker it's just stark red, like the rest of the armor plating on the figure. I think they could have like at least approximated a glow, given it kind of a glow. You can achieve a glow look with just paints. You don't have to make it actually glow. So I'd say these are both immensely frustrating figures, but the Geno Breaker doesn't even really make the frustration worth it, in my opinion. To be honest, they're not even that much fun to pit against each other because they look like they're from two different realities, if that makes sense. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Just the Blade Liger looks so much more of what it's supposed to be, which is a pseudo-sentient robotic animal. And this just looks like a toy. I don't know what to say. I mean, I know it is, of course, but it doesn't have the same personality. It doesn't have the same care put into it. It doesn't even seem like it would be a match for the Blade Liger because it's so scrawny. Like, I feel like the Blade Liger could just like latch onto its neck and break its head off, which is not what happens in the anime. So yeah, I mean, it's rare that this happens, but every once in a while I open a toy where I'm just like not having it, where I do not like it. And I try to be diplomatic and not just trash it completely, but I don't know why they made the decisions they made with this one. I'm disappointed, obviously. That's basically what it boils down to, is that I'm disappointed. I love the Geno Breaker. I do not love this Geno Breaker. I am excited for the new Tomy figures coming out. I don't have a Geno Soarer. I don't have a model kit or anything, so I'd like to get a Geno Soarer, and then I can get another Blade Liger. And they're pretty affordable, so I'd recommend if anyone is into Zoids, maybe you're already building kits or collecting, or you're wanting to start out, I would look up the new Realize models from Tomy, and you can start out there. The first ones that are coming out are Van's Blade Liger and Raven's Geno Soarer, and the pictures look really good. Out of all the things, I can't believe this head knife does not swing forward. Anyway, so that is all for today. Sorry, it was a bit of a bummer, but that is a risk you take sometimes. Likes and subscribes are very much appreciated. Comments are more than welcome. And may your head knife always swing forward.